What's up, y'all? It's Drees the Beast, back at you with another Street Fighter 6 video. Today we're taking a deep dive into understanding the intricacies behind the drive system, arguably the most important aspect to being successful in this game. When you first lay your eyes on the screen, it doesn't seem like there's too much going on here, right? You've got your health bar, the timer of the match, your super art gauges down here just chilling. We'll talk about that a little later. Then we got this beast of a gauge right here, the drive gauge. And let me tell you, this thing is the brain, the heart, the body, the goddamn everything to your livelihood in this game. You are both everything and nothing with the drive gauge. Understanding the capabilities, the limitations, and freedoms of it is crucial to your success. In this video, I'll briefly explain the drive system to provide some foundational knowledge. Then we're taking a dive into the deep waters of understanding proper and efficient management of your drive gauge and what exactly that looks like by using high-level footage to give you guys that sweet visual picture in your head. Before we start, please hit that subscribe button below for more dope Street Fighter 6 content in the very near future. The support means a lot and it tremendously helps the channel to grow. There are also timestamps within the video to make things more cohesive and easy to find, but I highly recommend watching the entire video through for a complete learning experience. Please keep in mind this guide is made through all available hands-on information about the game pre-release through official betas and Capcom's official website. Specific frame data is subject to change on final release, but the core fundamentals of the game will remain the same. Let's jump on in. Kicking things off with the drive gauge, the engine that powers the drive system is available as soon as the round begins, allowing you to fight to your liking. If you spend your entire drive gauge, you'll enter a burnout state with big disadvantages, but it also replenishes automatically, making meter management a key to the fight. Understanding the system in depth, including when to be conservative and when to gamble, allows for deep, high-level battles. Hey, this is what we'll be talking about in this video. Drive impact. I'll be referring to it as DI in this video, the most powerful mechanic in the game, costing 1 drive bar, a powerful strike that can absorb an opponent's incoming attack. Perform this on an opponent backed into the corner to induce a wall splat even if they block the attack. Drive Parry. It costs half a bar to perform and you regain that bar if you successfully land it. Automatically repel an opponent's attack and replenish drive when performed successfully. Perform a perfect parry by parrying just before an opponent's attack hits you. Overdrive. Costs 2 drive bars. Press 2 of the same button type instead of 1 when performing a special move to turn it into an overdrive art. These are the same attacks as EX special moves in past games. Drive Rush. The second most powerful mechanic in the game next to DI. Perform a quick rush forward from a drive parry or a cancelable normal attack. Drive Rush from a parry costs 1 drive stock, while Drive Rush from a normal attack costs 3 drive stocks. Last and probably least, Drive Reversal. The weakest mechanic in the game, and I'll explain why later on in the video. Perform a counter attack while blocking an opponent's attack. The damage is low, but can help you out of tight situations when you're being pressured. Costs 2 drive bars. There are a few important notes I want to highlight about drive impact to help you get a better idea of just how good it is. 2 hits of armor on frames 1 through 25, knocks down on hit, crumples on punish counter, damages opponent's drive gauge on block, half a bar, hit 1 bar, counter hit 1.25 bars, punish counter 1.5 bars. Pushes the opponent far back on hit or block and causes a wall splat if they hit the wall. Can clash with other drive impacts if they collide on the same active frame, start at exactly the same time. Costs 1 bar of drive gauge, the Scrub Killer. This is important. This is something to pay attention to. Using light punch and light kick buttons often in this game is important for pressure, as opposed to Street Fighter 5 where you wanted to establish pressure by using medium buttons, which had bigger frame advantages. In addition to that, you give yourself more reaction time to counter your opponent's DI with your low recovery normals. DI is very good when you're pressuring your opponent in the corner. It is reactable with a counter DI. You have 26 frames to react to it. In the previous beta, I started to become quite comfortable being in the corner because I would fight my way out using light buttons, didn't commit to anything high risk, and wait for the eventual DI from the opponent so I can DI back, and boom, immediate momentum shifter and big damage. DI is unironically the best option against your opponent's DI, so make sure you always keep enough meter in the tank to DI without bringing yourself into burnout. You can only cancel normally cancelable normals into DI. If you cannot cancel the normal in any other scenario, then you cannot cancel. If you get caught with DI when using a normal that isn't cancelable, you have to wait until the recovery of your normal is completed until you can DI back as a counter. Keep that in mind. I know that's a mouthful, but it'll make sense as we're going throughout the video and showing examples. Let's take a look at an example here.
I thought that only worked in the corner. Interesting. Okay. Oh, you're gonna get caught. Can't block that, and that's the first.
This example between Punk and Nephew shows a DI landing successfully in the corner. Punk wasn't ready for it and got hit for some good damage. Now let's take a look at how Valmaster handles drive impact from Angry Bird.
Go time. Stomps into the larger legs.
No, he was
Oh,
my
that
god.
was so good.
You got first one. A. And now
Valmaster pressured Angry Bird very well here, using low committal light buttons to open up availability for countering drive impact. There are also a few other ways of countering drive impact, using any level super art or critical art, throwing your opponent out of DI startup, which is pretty difficult. If you don't have the health needed to absorb the hits using DI, you will DI E.
There you go. Man, I should commentate this game. It's fun. You know what, Jeremy? They should put you in the game.
Nephew had the right idea here. He read that Punk was going to follow up his target combo with something, so he responded with DI. I believe that would have worked, but Nephew didn't have enough HP to absorb the hits of EX Fireball from Luke. DI is most dangerous when you are cornering your opponent.
Also used by Idom, but Nephew won that mirror match, and now Nephew on the verge of perhaps taking out Punk as well. Oh, close enough to the wall. He got the stun.
As I stated, you do not want to get hit by DI when you're in the corner. It leads to a wall crush and your opponent can get a full combo. You need to train your eyes to always be expecting DI. It is a high risk, high reward move. Let's look at an example of using DI mid-screen.
Into the flash knuckle, just a decent amount of damage, but more importantly, getting himself further and further from the corner. There's a rocket uppercut.
Punk actually used that.
DI isn't as strong mid-screen because you can't wall stun the opponent. If the opponent does not get countered by the DI, they just simply get pushed back. Effective in cases where you're expecting heavy committal buttons or moves like fireballs, and you're attempting to counter them with DI for that huge counter hit crumple. Now let's see how DI interacts with an opponent when they're in Burnout.
Combo? It sure does, James. It sure does. Oh, you cannot.
He was too strong on the medium punch, but this time, but he's
Can't do
burned
anything.
himself
He's burnt
out.
out.
He's burned himself out. Nephew still has so much resources. This is terrifying. You see, Punk is trying to
Interruption with the turn impact. Nephew absolutely stretching it out against Punk.
genius. He knew Punk did not have any of the resources.
Punk lost complete access to his drive gauge, so his options severely decreased when he went into Burnout. You can throw your opponent out of DI if they're close enough, but it's very range dependent and a bit unreliable. A good counter to DI mid-screen is simply neutral jumping, then coming down with a hard button to punish the recovery of DI. Understand that opponents will get thirsty to hit you with DI when you're in Burnout. Use that to your advantage by baiting it out. Moving on to drive Parry. There is a lot of information to cover regarding Parry. I'm not going to go over every single point because there's just far too many things to cover, so I recommend pausing the video here to read through everything. The most important part about Parry though, you're able to parry all strikes and projectiles high and low from frame 1. That means Parry starts up instantly when used. Let's take a look at Parry in action.
Right. Exactly what that is.
Right.
It's the remix to the American Reset.
So in this clip, Punk is getting pretty predictable with his pressure using forward heavy punch, so Nephew attempts to parry it to get the punish, but he was just barely out of range. Great application and concept. In this next clip, Nephew parries Punk's target combo since he was using it quite often and Nephew wasn't answering and gets a punish counter. Let's take a look.
mileage off of some of these lights. It's been so good to have, like...
Let's see that again.
His strategies in Street Fighter 5, right? So,
Okay. Man, Punk is getting a lot of mileage off of some of these lights. It's been so good to have, like...
Great answer from Nephew. You do not want to block projectiles in this game. Luke's normal fireball drains about a quarter of a drive bar for each blocked fireball. Parry is what you want to do in these cases. By successfully parrying a fireball, you can gain more real estate and moving forward, prevent your drive gauge from being drained, and you feel like you're tapping into your inner Daigo. Let's take a look at a perfect parry in motion.
Triple impact?
oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken. So imagine triple impact into drive impact. I'm not calling it that.
I mean, actually, it's Jury's Dive-Kick. They have the name like Third Strike and Second Impact and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Nephew perfect parries Punk's forward HP into punish counter. Your punish counter is heavily scaled, but absolutely worth the risk of going for parry. There, Punk was really predictable with his forward HPs, so Nephew figured, hey, let me time this parry appropriately and get an actual punish on that heavier normal that he's attacking with. Side note, you can parry DI on reaction, same as you would with DI. Parry is 1 frame startup. However, it's not worth it. If you successfully parry a DI, you're only left with 3 frames of advantage. DI is almost always the better option here. Using Overdrive and the risks associated with it. Let's take a look at this clip.
Throw anyway.
Really well played from Nephew. And the whiff punish. Dear Lord Almighty. Look at the damage. That's almost 50%.
What the heck? Oh, I thought Luke was the one that did all the damage, right?
Punish counter?
Yeah, you see these zoom in on the throw.
Oh, he dashed up to... Oh, I thought that was the punish. I thought he mistimed the dash.
And here we go. Punk should be able to get some good down. No drop.
Here we see Nephew using almost all of his drive gauge by going for big damage with Overdrive moves. I don't believe that was worth it. There was still so much of the round left. Punk is only at half life, and we see how Punk went on the aggressive to put Nephew in Burnout, and he was successful. Nephew also got a bit desperate by waking up with level 1 super art because he did not want to go into Burnout. Knowing when to drain your entire drive gauge for damage is important. Let's talk about Drive Rush. We have 2 versions, Parry Drive Rush or Raw Drive Rush, and then Cancelable Drive Rush. I'm going to talk about both in this video. Let's open up this clip and see things in motion.
Has to win 2 sets of 3 out of 5 in order to eliminate Punk. Punk just has to win 1. So he's big chilling right now.
Or so we think, right? Nephew getting the big opener against Punk. Hefty life lead, has the corner positioning. The big immediate bust out from Punk with the crouching light punches is going to be pivotal. He needs to push.
So we see from just those few sequences that Drive Rush is a very strong mechanic. Light Fireball into Raw Drive Rush is good. Drive Rush into Overhead is very strong, as you can see from this clip. Even if you block it, your opponent still has frame advantage, so it's still not your turn. Jury's Overhead is normally -2 on block, but doing Drive Rush into Overhead gives it an extra 4 frames of advantage, making her Overhead +2 on block. Pretty good indeed. Raw Drive Rush is reactable, but can catch opponents off guard when used sparingly. There is also a lot of specific information to cover about the properties of Drive Rush, but I'll just have you guys pause right here to review everything if you'd like. Let's take a look at some Parry Drive Rush examples to see when it works and sometimes when it doesn't work.
Yeah, okay, fair. But it did cost Punk. Nice interruption on the Drive Rush over there.
Low medium kick into the crouching medium punch.
Yeah. Sick looking target. Yeah,
There it is, yeah.
That, yeah. Kill?
Possibly.
Oh, but there's that overhead for the plus frames and now for the...
It's a little fast. Let me back that up a bit.
Oh, he dropped the no chaser.
It's all right. It was just a setup. It was a frame kill.
Possibly.
Oh, but there's that overhead.
As you can see, Fireball into Drive Rush is extremely strong, especially Fireball into Drive Rush into Overhead. There's a lot to think about here, so make sure you're on your toes. Let's move on to part 2 of Drive Rush, the Drive Rush Cancel. Right off the bat, low button into Drive Rush Cancel is extremely strong. Let's check out a few clips here.
By the way, Robitech, real sweetheart too, that was putting together some of the mods earlier. The modded piece, very, very well done.
Very good. It also catches walkbacks or backdashes.
For that medium punch. And again, when you're drive rushing like that, most buttons will give you plus frames. You don't have to use during medium. Oh! The reads and catches the backdash.
There, Punk caught the backdash of Nephew. Very hard to escape those situations. You kind of just have to hold it. Here we have Punk doing a high damaging combo off of crouching medium kick into Drive Rush.
You're really glad you can't do that in 5. Anyway. Oh, the rocket uppercut. Oh, low forward. How?
Hey. Well done, well done. We see just how strong a button like Luke Injury's crouching medium kicks are a huge threat against the opponent with Drive Rush. Don't get caught walking back or backdashing, because competent players will bless your legs all day long. Don't give them that easy damage. Be observant and cautious and neutral. In conjunction with Drive Rush, the reward for successfully whiff punishing in this game is massive. Here in this clip, we see Punk whiff punishing Nephew with a great stand HP into Drive Rush.
Again, the whip punish right to the punish counter. Here we go. He's going to be able to extend.
Very strong. Here is another clip with another strong whiff punish from Punk.
Already? It's already about that time. I'm going to check my imaginary watch. Yeah, it sure is. 2-0 from the side of Nephew. Unbelievable. And once again, this is that beautiful lap.
So he dropped the combo, but you can see just how much of an advantage and capitalization you can get from whiff punishing and using the Drive Rush Cancel. Very strong stuff. Drive Reversal. In its current state, Drive Reversal is not worth using in comparison to all of the other options presented to you with your drive gauge. It uses 2 bars of drive gauge. On block, it's -8. It isn't very fast or effective, especially in a game where heavier buttons aren't used as often as previous titles of Street Fighter. Now, of course, there are some niche uses. It is fully invincible, so you can't throw it out of its startup like you could in Street Fighter V with V-Reversal. I haven't really found uses for it though, because in almost every scenario I've seen, a better option would have been to DI, Parry, or even Overdrive Invincible Reversal. Let's just take a look at a V-Reversal done by, Drive Reversal done by Valmaster. Here we see Valmaster trying Drive Reversal to get Ken off of him, but it isn't very effective for the amount of drive gauge used. Even against an opponent in Burnout, you can see that Chun is still at a disadvantage with being -4 on block. It's not ideal. There really isn't too much more to say about this mechanic. Obviously, it could use some love from Capcom. Burnout is something you want to avoid falling into as much as possible. Let's take a look at this clip.
Dude, Haki Kokans are fast in this game.
That's +5.
Yeah,
That's +5.
This is just a small example of many, but you can see Chun's standing medium punch has huge advantage on block against a burnt out opponent. Like I mentioned before, you gain 4 extra frames of advantage on everything when your opponent is in Burnout, meaning you can really just spam normals with huge plus frame advantages and go complete gorilla mode on your opponent. Let's take a look at the disadvantages that Burnout presents. So here we have 4 frames of added frame advantage against Defender, slower walk speed, you lose access to Overdrive, Parry, DI, Drive Rush, Drive Reversal, your entire drive system. Higher chip damage now kills, your character looks extra goofy. You lose drive gauge on everything you block. In Burnout, you regain extra drive meter when you either attack, on block, or on hit, or vice versa when you're the defender. When you get stunned in corner from DI and Burnout, after the combo is finished, you instantly regain your entire drive gauge, so keep that in mind. Now let's talk about the super art gauge in the bottom left. All level supers deduct drive gauge from the opponent on hits. CA is 2 bars, level 3 is 1.5 bars, level 2 is 1 bar, and level 1 is half a bar. So in this clip coming up, Angry Bird ends the round and puts opponent in Burnout using level 3. Let's take a look.
Trying, but no idea. Grandmaster escapes.
Oh, you're dead. For sure, for sure.
Ah! With a re-repar.
Level 3s and CAs are very strong in this game, not only for the damage, but for reducing your opponent's drive gauge. A decent amount of level 1 and 2s puts you at a pretty big spacing gap on hit, which means you lose your turn. For example, Jury's level 1, Kin's level 1, and level 2. Let's just take a look at this clip here.
They're just confirming into that target combo, and that was it. But here's Nephew getting the hit with the EX, going in there with the level 1. But close to Burnout at this point, so you gotta be careful.
You can see just how big of a gap Jury's level 1 created. She threw Kin full screen, and she had no more advantage, and the neutral is reset. Using level 1s and 2s for the kill is a great use of meter, as shown in this clip I'm about to show you.
The thing with Luke, right?
Oh, huge! Look at the damage. You could go into thermal barrack, which he does.
Oh, if Punk has been, I mean,
That did great damage. Something else to note, of course, is that super art gauges do carry over between round and round, but using it for the purpose of killing is always a good decision. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. That is my in-depth guide regarding the entire drive system in Street Fighter 6. If you learned anything at all from this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps this channel grow tremendously. Stay locked in for more Street Fighter 6 content in the very near future. Until next time.